Shogun, this is Ninja 3-3.
Copy, 3-3. What's your squad status?
Verifying. What the fuck?
Prototype 2 is the game that asks the question: if you were a walking disaster in the shape of a man, what would you do? And then proceeds to deliver the answer in the most action-packed, gut-wrenching brutality possible, where each step you take leaves behind nothing but a sea of mangled corpses and body liquids.
Damn, son!
Developed by Radical Entertainment, Prototype 2 is the second installment in the Prototype series, which is a spiritual successor to their previous game, The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Which is surprising because I have played both of these games on my old rusty computer as a child, and I never really saw the connection between the two until I looked back at it recently, and yeah, similarities are as clear as your mommy's panties in a summer rain, bitch. Anyway, the original Prototype wasn't groundbreaking or anything, but it was one of the few games at the time which gave players complete freedom to mess around in their open world sandbox, and allowed them to give in to their intrusive thoughts, which in turn created brainless fun gameplay that was addicting. It also helped that the main character of that game was amnesia-stricken psychopath that could mutilate people in a number of creative ways, which directly made him the champion of every 30-year-old edgy fantasies. All in all, the original game was very well received, but it never really did anything innovative and just remained a cult classic like Infamous. With the release of Prototype 2, Radical Entertainment promised the same good old chaotic power fantasy trip with updated graphics, mechanics, new story plot points and many more. It just so happened that the new plot points and overall storyline became so controversial that it killed not only the franchise but the whole development team behind it, causing the good old Uncle Activision to do what they do best, which is to shut down and absorb the development team and send them to Call of Duty mines. Taking place a year after the events of the original game, Prototype 2 starts with a series of flashbacks, subtly retelling the tragic backstory of James Heller, the main character you play as. You find out that there has been a second virus outbreak in New York, which took lives of his wife and daughter, and at the center of it all is our homeboy Alex Mercer. Driven mad and suicidal, Heller's next best idea is to go into the heart of the quarantined red zone and kill as many infected as he possibly can before dying himself. And as you can probably guess, things go far worse than he could possibly have anticipated when Mercer himself drops in the grid, killing his whole squad and demolishing everything else in sight.
Holy shit. Alex Mercer.
That said, it also serves as an interesting perspective of seeing the unstoppable killing force that we were in the first game. From a regular soldier's perspective, it makes you think of what Blackwatch squads must have felt in the first game when you randomly jumped them and mutilated their squad mates in front of their eyes. Seeing the absolute chaos this guy caused in the first game, you would think anyone would at least flinch at the sight of him, but Heller thinks outside the box and decides to rush this absolute killing machine with a knife.
What the?
Now, to be fair, he was suicidal. What follows next is a bit of an odd chase sequence, which pretty much serves as a small introduction to upgraded visuals and the look of the infected monsters. The sequence ends up with Alex finally ending their fun charade by infecting him with his virus. Serving as the origin story of how he got his powers, Heller wakes up being experimented on by Blackwatch. He escapes and meets up with Mercer once again, who this time around reveals that Blackwatch and Agentech, the company that messed around with the virus, are the ones behind all of the mess, and he's trying to destroy them and wants his help. From there on, you finally start playing in one of the 3 available playable zones in the game, where Yellow Zone serves as a safe point from all the craziness, Green Zone which is heavily infested with mutants, and a Red Zone which is practically a hell on earth, infested with countless number of infected battling against the forces of Blackwatch and army, which creates chaotic visual across the whole map even without players' input. To be honest, story is pretty bare bones, filled with numerous plot holes with no attempts to make it more engaging or add some twist around the corner. It completely retcons some of the plot points of the first game, such as existence of Paria, the son of Elizabeth Green, which game sets up either as a new protagonist or antagonist in the series, It also completely retcons the conclusion of Alex Mercer's storyline, where it was revealed that the guy we played as was Virus all along, believing itself to be the Mercer. Instead, Prototype 2 presents Alex Mercer as a just evolved mutated human instead of Sapphire Virus, who is cartoonishly so evil it almost goofy. It also doesn't help that the game has its entire plot point in a cliche that humans are flawed and spreading the virus will give birth to the battle world. Another hit of the miss in the series is that James Allen himself is so catatonically angry all the time, it can be both brutally hilarious or completely vexing.
Oh, Heller. Hope he didn't hurt your brain there.
Bitch.
I didn't think it was possible, but the shit this guy says could make even 2009 Call of Duty lobby players blush with embarrassment.
Damn straight it's a failure. Just like you were to your mama, asshole.
My favorite part has gotta be the way he treats Sabrina Galloway, the fact that infected from the Mercer's group, like absolute piece of shit.
Now don't forget the rest of those choppers.
Don't talk to me like a dog. Bitch.
Every word that comes out from his mouth when he is with her is aimed to remind her that she belongs to the streets, which eventually culminates into one of my all-time favorite in-game dialogue pieces that made me choke on my water when I heard it.
I don't want to get between you and Mercer. Besides, I'd probably catch something.
Another ridiculous part of the game is just how one-dimensionally evil the Blackwatch are. Like, the game doesn't even try to take these guys seriously, and depicts them so one-sidedly diabolical in their treatment of civilians. It makes you question whether or not majority of these soldiers came from the World War II hardcore era of German ancestry.
Look at all these civilians, and you know what I think? Fuck them. Fuck all of them. I'm sick of this rescue shit.
In the first game, Blackwatch were special forces that operated in gray area. While they weren't evil, they also wouldn't shy away from justifying the end with morally questionable means. In Prototype 2, however, they are outright treating civilians as less of a dirt and waste of their time and resources. It makes it really hard to sell the image that these guys are professionals that the government hires for do questionable things when shit hits the fan.
Shit, dude. Have you been working out? I eat a lot of protein.
Our full story aside, the gameplay is where this game truly shines. All of the abilities from the first game make their return with additional new sets of infected arms that can shoot out tendrils that launch everything at the target's vicinity into them, which creates amazing spectacle when you hit the poor bastard with it and then watch as they get crushed by their fellow soldiers or a goddamn tank. Unlike the original game where blade arm pretty much was the strongest weapon in the arsenal, this time around Prototype abilities are well balanced, with each of them serving its role in the combat. The claws are classic close-quarter combat weapon that lets you shred anything in close vicinity at remarkable speed, with additional new moveset of being able to lunge at targets, which replaces the previous game's ability where Mercer could shoot out enormous spikes from the ground. The new addition of tendrils serve as a well-balanced close to mid-range weapon that rips everything apart and is arguably the most satisfying ability to use. Blade arm also makes a return, serving as another alternative to close-range combat with bigger attack range and force behind it, compared to the claws. The whip fist is generally useful when you are playing safely and want to hit enemies at long to mid-range distance. They are especially useful against the annoying gunships that chase after you every time you get found out. Hammer Fist also make a return, hitting hard and if not harder this time around. It is extremely useful against the heavy infantry, such as tanks or beefy enemies, and this time around it's also one that gets ability to shoot spikes from the ground instead of claws like a first game. Another new and improved power is a dual shield you can get in this game, which is arguably the most broken power in Prototype 2. They can block everything and counter everything, and generally make some of the fights like against Prowler or the Super Soldiers look like a joke. Aside from that, stealth has also been vastly improved, allowing you to kill your targets much more silently and unnoticeably with additional ability called Biobomb. And I got to say, this new addition is easily the best thing about the game. At the risk of sounding like a psychopath, I have to say that there is just something incredibly fun about walking up to the group of soldiers, hitting one of them behind with it, and watching them mess from the sidelines as they start screaming for dear life before exploding into a magnificent mess of the tendrils that pull everything in close vicinity. It also serves as a convenient means of distraction at the cost of alerting enemy of your presence, which can be easily managed with the right disguise. Prototype 2 also introduces a rank-up system where every time you finish a main or a side objective, it rewards you with the points which you can use to upgrade any of the Heller's attributes such as health, ability to run or glide faster, the height at which you can jump, and so on. Upgrading any of these attributes makes a new addition to the gameplay and the way Heller behaves and moves. Aside from the main storyline, you can also do a number of side quests that uses a new acquired hunting vision ability that replaces infected vision from the first game. It is primarily used to track down the person of the interest in the quest, and is never really questioned or explained how it works aside from the initial query. Doing these side quests gives you more in-depth information about Blackwatch, Gentech and Infected, and sometimes even gives you more information about Heller himself, which you wouldn't get just by playing the main storyline. Aside from the main missions, you can also destroy random research security areas, or do underground hive dungeons and destroy nests, which is the best way to get rank up points for your attributes faster. Beyond that, you can also do Radnet challenges, which if you get high enough points unlocks additional hidden powers and cheats you can use to mess around the sandbox and create even more chaos. The main selling point of these challenges is the skills you unlock, which allows you to play as either Alex Mercer himself, albeit with no voiceover, with addition of Mercer's and Hellas infected and armored forms, which are no longer part of the core combat system this time around. Visually, Prototype 2 is a big leap from the dull and grey look of the first game, which presents the game with much more vibrant colors that sells the state of the playable zones and overall look of the game better. Despite the outdated textures, the game looks very pleasing to the eye. I especially love the new red and black glowing effect they gave to the virus and the infected monsters, which is especially prominent in Heller's powers when he morphs his hands. I think it's really aesthetically pleasing and it looks 10 times better than the dull black mutated arms we had in the first game. The infected and non-infected enemy models had also gotten an update. While the army infantry look might have stayed same, the Blackwatch had complete design makeover, giving them more grim and unique look compared to the initial design, which to be fair looked more practical and realistic. Super Soldiers also make a return in a sequel, albeit with much more better look and movesets, but they barely pose any challenge compared to the infected monsters. It is still fun kicking their asses and throwing them around like a toys though. On the side of infected, brawlers thankfully no longer look like a manifestation of every woman's period month with vagina for the face. Instead, they generally look like a horrible mixture of human and dog DNA, which, truth to be told, can be a valid explanation for the way they look. We also got introduced to the new enemy variant Juggernaut, which is a tanky type of infected that is slower than a brawler but hits 10 times harder and can take more punishment. Another enemy variants that are sadly mostly exclusive to the story quests are Goliath, the Evolved, and the Hydra. Goliath is a completely new enemy type that is incredibly huge and ugly to look at. It is supposedly aggregation of all kinds of mess of a DNA that has mutated into one giant freak monster that rampages throughout the city. While not exactly the best design in terms of battling it one-on-one like other infected, it is still fun and exciting encountering demolishing Blackwatch base points. It also has this really cool move where it jumps 10 stories high in the air and slaps down with all of its weight, which creates cool scenery with a slow motion that screams,
"Get the fuck out!"
Sadly, as cool of a monster it is, you only ever encounter it in the story missions 3 times, which sucks because it would have been pretty cool to just roam around in the open world and sometimes stumble upon it attacking the Blackwatch bases and causing earthquakes. Another mostly story exclusive elite infected are the Evolved, which is supposed to be people Mercer infected like Heller. And they are cool to fight against first few times, but it quickly becomes boring when you realize that every Evolved encounter is pretty much the same boss fight with different skins and occasional new attack animations and abilities. I mean, shit bro, if you get a low budget version of Mercer's powers, I would at least expect you to use anything else other than the half-baked made in China version arm blades, if they even can be called that. Hydras also make a comeback, but they are kinda like there. They make handful of appearances in the story missions, and then like Goliath cannot be encountered in the open world. And to be honest, I'm personally not missing much, because this has got to be stupidest boss designs ever created. All it ever does is just grab some random trash to throw at you and occasionally use tendril to rope you in and hit you. That's it. The next enemy encounter I'm going to talk about is the endgame boss, which kinda spoils the ending of the game, so if you want you can skip ahead. Anyway, at the end of the game you fight Alex Mercer as the boss, which in theory sounds really amazing, but the way it was executed left me completely baffled. The same Alex Mercer whom you destroyed the whole New York with in a Prototype 1, who is supposedly the more experienced with his powers and is boosted on top of that, gets his shit completely kicked in by Heller.
Bitch! You got nothing on me!
Mercer gets pathetically beaten and stripped of his powers one by one by amateur who didn't even have his powers for 3 months, and gets mutilated like any other NPC and eaten by Heller. Disappointing treatment and representation of Alex Mercer aside, I don't wanna end this video on a bad note. Prototype 2 is a good action game that really makes you feel like an unstoppable badass, and the story and character inconsistency will only ever bother you if you get practically interested in a game lore and the storyline. This game is worth try even today and does a lot of good compared to the bad in my opinion, and if you are tired of modern gaming diseases of shoving battle passes and seasonal updates down in your throat, then maybe, just maybe, a little adrenaline pumping power trip to the past might be just what you want.